Welcome to another episode of Chasing the Wind. I'm Pastor Mark, and if you are watching this, you are watching an episode entitled Stinger Part 2. Welcome to Chasing the Wind. I am Pastor Mark, and it is Stinger Part 2. Play the music. No, we don't have any music. Okay. Let's talk about Stinger Part 2. If you watched last week, I'm going to just pick it up. I'm not going to revisit it. I'm going to talk about it. So here's the deal. I got to set it up for you again, so bear with me. I've been doing a little physical therapy, just being honest with you here. Nothing major, nothing like I'm like bad, but I have had a little issue from my car accident back in November that cropped up a few months later. That kind of bees. How about that? There's good. I are a doctor. There seems to be a little pattern in my life that things show up after they happen. You know, I have like a delayed reaction or something to it. But anyway, had been having some pain in my shoulders and my neck, and so we determined that I probably have a little bit of a pinched nerve or something like that. But anyway, been having good results with physical therapy, and Lord's put me with a good physical therapist. I think he's like Doogie Howser. He's like 12. He looks 12 to me anyway, but I'm also 58. So a lot of people look 12 to me who are in their probably 20s and 30s, but that's another chasing the wind. Anyway, been having good results with that, but I was on vacation for 2 weeks and I was on the prednisone and I didn't see my physical therapist. And I went and saw him actually here recently. We're going to do a little bit more because he wants to see a little more results, but that's beside the point. And so I go to see him, and I'm telling him, here's what's happened. I had the prednisone stuff, and he kind of does this, and I've been having good results and getting positive results. And he goes, I wonder if the prednisone actually has helped your situation. You know where this is going, wind chasers. I think about that sting I got, which was probably about 2 weeks, something like 2.5, 3 weeks before I went back to see my physical therapist. Makes me think about when Joseph said to his brother, "You meant it for his brothers. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." We like to judge things that happen in our lives. Now, understandably, people, there are some things that happen in our lives that we can honestly say this was a bad thing. We can look at other things and say this was a good thing. But we like to judge situations. I got stung by a yellow jacket or hornet, whatever it was. Oh, that's a bad thing. And God said, yeah, it was. It hurt. It was painful. It was not pleasant. But alas, isn't that a great word? Alas! That led to later because as I shared the story, I did not know the stinger was in there. We got the stinger out. I was on prednisone. Alas, the prednisone, as my physical therapist said to me, I'm wondering if the prednisone actually helped with this pinched nerve in your neck, if that's what it is. And so while he's talking about this and he's making me do some things to kind of stretch and this sort of thing, instantly I'm like, this is a chasing the wind. How quick we are to assume that something unpleasant, bad, for lack of a better term, it can't be used for good or cannot be redeemed. You meant it for evil, but I meant it for good. Now, understandably, I'm sure that Mr. Yellow Jacket or Mr. Hornet was not thinking, I'm gonna just be mean to this guy walking by where we were hovering or whatever. Although they are nasty, there is no doubt about that. And that's probably one of those things we need to ask God about. Why in the world did you do that? We can look at our situation and say, God, what are you doing here? Instead of maybe saying, oh, it's good or it's bad, maybe we just need to look at it and say, well, maybe it just is. that old phrase, oh, it is what it is. Okay, well, maybe we need to say, I don't, God, what are you doing in all this? I would have never guessed that because of one little simple sting that led to something else, to some sort of allergic reaction, or my body saying, hey, you need to take care of this, which sometimes those uncomfortable things in our lives tell us that there's a problem. Why do we get a fever? It tells us that there's something wrong in our bodies. Okay, pain tells us there's something wrong in our bodies. We probably need to have this looked at. Sometimes when we experience discomfort and uncomfortable situations in our lives, we say, God, take it away, take it away. I don't want to deal with this. What do? We live in a society that has pain relievers, don't we? We sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's prescription drugs, sometimes it's food, whatever it is. Gerald May says, we're all addicted to something. What is it? Okay. Or Tracy Strawberry says, pick your poison. What do we use to try and take care of our pain? It might be people pleasing, whatever it is. But when we feel that pain, we need to say, God, what is this about? We want to run from it. We want to go get that antibiotic cream with pain reliever in it, so that we don't have to feel the pain. And sometimes, you're in a situation you need that pain to go away right away. I remember one particular situation. I was going through a very, very rough time in my life, and I remember calling a counselor friend of mine, and I scared him a little bit, but I said, I've never felt this kind of emotional pain in my life before. And it was a very hard time. And he goes, well, do you want to come in and see me? I said, no, I need to feel this. I need to experience this, and I need God to meet me in it and tell me what it's about. And we met later, a couple days later, and God moved and took care of it. I'm not saying that we should go around living in pain and embrace it, but we need to embrace it sometimes and engage it anyway and say, God, what is this telling me? And so, but we also need to stop and say, wait a minute. I asked God to heal this pinched nerve. I asked my physical therapist. I said, I'm doing better. The symptoms have basically disappeared. I said, is there a possibility is it possible that the nerve has been released, that the pinched nerve has been released? He goes, well, there's a possibility, but probably it's just a matter of the stretching and whatnot has been brought relief. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm making a declaration on Chasing the Wind. I have asked God to release that pinched nerve, if indeed that's what it is. And I'm going to tell you, I believe God has done it. I believe God has released that pinched nerve. Now, I could be wrong. God said, I've just relieved the symptoms. And if he is, I'm not going to argue about that either, because that's good. But I am going to believe that my God has released that pinched nerve, if that's what it was. But I'm also going to believe that God said, I'm not going to waste this crisis. I use that phrase a lot in my church, is God does not waste a good crisis. And God says, well, maybe God, and I'm not going to say God orchestrated and put that stinger in me. I don't do that thing where God's like a real mean person. And, you learn a lot about people when you hear about their image of God. It tells you a lot about their childhood, probably. Or experiences from their life. But here's what I do know. God says, okay, I'm going to use this to help bring some healing. Why my doctor didn't say, hey, let's put you on prednisone, see if that helps. But God got me on prednisone, and God does heal through doctors. Okay, God sometimes heals without doctors. Sometimes he heals with doctors. He heals without medicine. Sometimes he heals with medicine. Okay, I don't care how he does it, as long as he does it. So I want you to think about this as you think, maybe last week you thought about the stingers in your life, that maybe that stinger is there to tell you something that God wants to heal, and that it's going to provide an opportunity for you to ask for help. Maybe it's going to provide an opportunity for you to get some sort of healing balm, the balm in Gilead. Okay, I love that from the Old Testament there in the song. There is a balm in Gilead. But it just, as I'm sitting here thinking about the theology of this whole experience, 2.5 weeks of God saying, Mark, I was healing you. I was healing you. And I took that kind of bad or unpleasant situation, but I actually used it to help heal something else. It's kind of interesting. They're learning too now that honeybees, if they use them, sometimes it helps people with certain neurological disorders. It's almost like an acupuncture, I guess, kind of thing. I don't know, but here's what I do know. God took one unpleasant situation to provide an opportunity for healing for another unpleasant situation. God says, my ways are not your ways, and my plans are not your plans. So Wind Chasers, I want you to just sit here, and maybe instead of we cry out to God. Yes, that's okay. Cry out to God. He's open to it. But as part of your cry goes out to God, and may part of it is, God, what are you doing in this? And what do you want to do in this? And how do you want to use it to your glory and to transform my life? So mic drop. I'm going to leave it right there. Wind Chasers. Keep chasing the wind because the wind is chasing you. Till next time, I'm Pastor Mark. Grace and peace.